Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, so they say. What do you think? What beholder would rate this as beautiful? Or this? Or this? There was a time in the early years of digital photography when manufacturers took great liberties when designing their cameras. It was a time of pioneering a new technology, a time when anything seemed to go. Brands were much more bold when testing out what a digital camera should look like. And Canon was no exception. In 2004, if you felt like a pro, and if you had $1,000 to spare, you could get the Canon PowerShot Pro1. I had never heard of this camera and stumbled over it purely by chance. When you take into account that it was basically discontinued after the first attempt, then that's not a big surprise. But I still was intrigued at first sight. The Pro1 was Canon's attempt at getting an early entry into the blossoming premium compact digital camera market. It was a bold move, featuring premium functions in a compact body at a premium price. And it failed. But was the lack of success justified? Was it too ambitious? And more interestingly, could you get some fun and good pictures out of it still today? Let's look at the design first. No, the Pro1 will not win any beauty contests. It is bulky. It has strange proportions, and somehow it looks like the separate parts were slapped together without much love. But when you hold it in your hand, you notice that maybe this is a very good example of form follows function to the extreme. Especially the grip is big enough to hold it firmly and securely in your hand, even with bigger hands like mine. On the other side, size was clearly a factor. Canon wanted to make this camera as small as possible and still give the user stability and pro functions. Button placement is well thought out. You can handle most of the settings one-handed and without going into the menu. But pocketable, it is certainly not. For its age, the Pro1 provides some functions that many modern cameras still lack. For example, the swiveling screen. Well, okay, with only 2 inches in size, you really need good eyes to compose a picture on this, and the resolution will make it near impossible to judge if you hit the focus right. But still, it works in most situations. And it is accompanied by an electronic viewfinder, which also has very limited resolution but works very well in bright light conditions and gives you the most important values next to the picture. The biggest selling point at the time was clearly the 7x zoom lens with L branding and ultrasonic focus motor, something that no other compact camera until today has been equipped with. With a range from 28 to 200 mm and a minimum aperture of 2.4 at the wide end and 3.5 at the long end, this lens is really interesting for a lot of situations. The zoom ring around the lens lets you choose the intended focal length by wire. By the way, in manual mode, the zoom ring automatically becomes the focus ring, which is a neat feature. You even get a macro mode, which lets you take pictures at a distance of down to 3 centimeters. Another cool gadget is the built-in ND filter. This is something that only few manufacturers provide even today in their cameras. But what can you expect from an 8-megapixel CCD sensor behind this lens? Well, look for yourselves. The sensor surely is tiny with only 2/3 of an inch in diameter. Pixel density, on the other hand, is not too high at 8 megapixels. You can get raw images, which is a big plus with modern post-processing tools. With an ISO range from 50 to 400, you better only use it in good lighting. Processing speed, writing to and reading from the CF card is annoyingly slow, even with a good card. By the way, power supply comes from the same batteries as the Canon DSLRs of the same era. And now, last but not least, let's test the video capabilities of this 17-year-old prosumer cam. Let's say I won't make my next video with this camera, but otherwise this is a great little tool to fool around with. I like the feel, if not the look of it. I like its image output and the plethora of features it presents in order to create stunning pictures still today. You can still get them used for very little money, but you may have to wait and see when a good one pops up. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments if this quirky cam tickles your interest. Do you know of any other cameras I should look at? Next time, I guess, I'll dive into the realms of Nikon and a very odd camera indeed. Until then, happy shooting.